Voice. I'm the Fairy Voice Mother, and today I'm going to be analysing Black by Pearl Jam, the Unplugged edition. I don't think I've heard any Pearl Jam songs before this day. So this song was apparently released in 1991, which was a really interesting time for music. 70s, rock was the coolest thing ever. 80s, we still had a bit of rock, but you know, some people got a synth for Christmas. And then a lot of synth-based music was starting to be made, and it got a little bit boring, and people were like, oh, do you know what, I just want some rock. Grunge was born. Good bit of grungy dirt. Okay, shut up, Lolly. Wow. They love it. They're like, thank God people are not using synths anymore. This constant in and out of pitch is giving me this constant low-level goosebumps. I actually don't think I've felt this before. It's like my skin is alight and my hair's on end, but in this kind of continuous tingle. It's a really strange feeling. Jeff Buckley is my favourite singer of all time, and something that his voice has in common with his voice is this, like, he goes off-key quite a lot, but then he brings it back before you would have time to dislike it. That's a very powerful thing. You even hear this in like Whitney Houston records, like deliberately going off the pitch, but then hitting the note perfectly where it counts. It just gives you this constant sort of tension and hanging on his every word, and it's real and raw and constant. And the priority for him is the tone and the message of the song and the style of the delivery. This is very tense in many ways. He's holding his jaw quite tight and he's singing through a very small space. If you were to have a conversation in which you were feeling slightly enraged or frustrated about something, you would probably speak through gritted teeth. An open mouth would be more appropriate for a confident delivery, whether it be confident and elated or confident and enraged, but just something that's assured. And this is not giving me that assurance at all. I'm very on edge listening to this, which is a exhilarating feeling. Before me, and somebody wants to. The tongue is virtually always here. It's retracted and bunched up in the middle. All the round, as opposed to with all the round. By bending the tongue, the voice actually has to travel in a different direction than it would do if you were to keep the tongue relaxed, or if you were to carve the sound with the tongue in a different position. Say you wanted to lift the tip up. I don't know why you would want to do that. That was a terrible example. But yeah, do you know what's really funny? A really strange comparison for this is Celine Dion. She always keeps her tongue in a very specific retracted placement, which gives her that extremely unique never needed anyone myself. It's all on the tongue. Tongue retraction can significantly aid one's ability to belt. Your vocal folds get used to working much more economically because they know that they've only got to fill up this tiny little space, which is the difference between belting and shouting. We've all around the song, as the earth to the sun, yeah, now here I tasted and breathed. The tongue is so pulled back here. His lyrics are really beautiful. They're quite hard to understand, such as grunge. Adding that distortion to the and then releasing it into, and all I taught her was everything.
And all I taught her was everything.
It's kind of a sarcastic line on its own, but in this delivery, you're like, oh no, it's real. Even things like the little head shake.
How quick the sun came.
It's all of these things. How quick the sun came. Like, you're trying to shake a memory out of your head. This face shape, they're... If you manage to tense your upper lip and point your lower lip in this manner, that's the sound. You can't do a different sound. Drop away. Unless you poke your tongue out, which is silly. I love a bit of lip tension and cheek tension, more broadly known here as face help. I just think experimenting with different ways of playing this instrument is essential if you are to find little hidden treasures, because there will be some sounds that you absolutely just can't make without the help of your face. And there are others that you can, but it just makes it a lot easier if you put your face into a certain position. So you should absolutely use it.
Take a walk outside. I'm surrounded by some kids at playing. I can feel their laughter. Oh, so why do I see it? Man twisting thoughts that spin round my head. I'm spinning. Oh, I'm spinning.
Oh, and now he's like rocking back and forth. Oh my god, this is so bloody real. He's singing the blues. What blues is all about.
I take a walk outside. I'm surrounded by some kids at playing. I can
No, this phrase. Crying through these notes. And it's not just because of this grit. It's the way that it's the end note.
I'm surrounded by
That little lilt into the bottom, as if it was choked off, you know? You even get to hear that little hiss of breath where the vocal folds are stiff. Vocal folds? Wow! These massive mouth shapes can sometimes help with this style of distortion. Notice that this is different than the growl. When we want to distort higher notes, it's sometimes quite difficult to find because distortion and fry and stuff is something you would associate with a relaxed drop voice. And obviously we want to do it here on a belt. Wow! Can encourage the vocal folds to sort of stay stiff and stretched at the same time, which is what we need for high notes, because high notes you have to have stretched vocal folds. So if you're thinking relaxed, too relaxed at the same time as distorting high, those two thought processes don't blend very well. So something like relying on a face position can give you permission to relax, but in a different way, because you're not relaxed, but you're not focused on getting the distortion to work either. So it's just that perfect middle ground.
I'm spinning high with the sun can drop away. And now my bitter hand, great old broken glass of what was everything. Oh, the picture sad, open once and black, tattooed everything. Oh, the love gone bad, turned my world to black.
I've just looked up the lyrics because I couldn't quite make them all out, which is fine, by the way. I know we give a lot of importance to diction and stuff like that, but sometimes it's just not appropriate, whether it's just not natural for the singer, or if the vocal techniques are a certain way. When we do a lot of distortion, there's a lot going on in his throat and in his mouth that needs to be sustained. And when we put obstacles in front of the voice, which is basically what good diction is, a sharp, snappy tongue or lips or whatever, it disrupts that flow. So you can't actually sing with wonderful distortion and perfect diction at the same time. It doesn't work. But anyway, I heard a few beautiful lyrical moments in there, and I just wanted to see what they were. And now my bitter hands cradle broken glass. I mean, come on. What a sensational metaphor for frustration and resentment. Like an admittance of the bitterness being in me, but the broken glass is the pain you're causing me. So it's just two very ugly things in one that happens to also be something we can visualize. So that is extremely poignant. A lot of admittance in general. Like, I know someday you'll have a beautiful life. I know you'll be a star in somebody else's sky, but why can't it be me? It's like admitting that this person is wonderful and lovely and that you're the problem. I mean, even if it's not the case, this is this person's perspective. They feel so dreadful about themselves. We don't know if it's true or not. We don't know if it is, in fact, the other person's problem. But not to him. This is, to me, the most sad and emotive type of music where it's not hateful. There's no you about this. It's just, why can't I be better? Why can't I deserve you? Sort of asking the void.
I see all that I am, all I'll be.
This is glorious. You know the advice that people give if you want to sing better? You have to sing from your soul and you have to connect with the lyrics to make sure that the audience receives the message. And I just think if that's something that you have to think about and consciously do, it's not going to work. Because the things that I'm picking up on here, and actually in a lot of the things that I analyse, I'm just picking up on the effects they have, but not their thought process. I don't think by any means that he's choosing to add the false folds to his distortion in that point specifically to make it more gritty. I don't think he's onsetting his notes in this kind of cry style because it's what the audience wants to hear. It's because these things are a byproduct of what he really genuinely feels. And I don't know if you could create something this impactful unless you really do feel it yourself. Now, obviously, we can act and absorb the character. And we can do that really, really effectively because you can absorb the character so much to the point where you really genuinely feel that character's pain, which is what good actors do. But this is just different. There's something about this that's very different, and it's like a secret sauce. You can't fake some stuff. We've all got stories about all different kinds of things. Stories about pain, about love, about loss, about gain, about all the things that have happened in our life so far. And when we sing those songs and tell those stories, the real ones, natural nuances will start to emerge in your voice. So to prepare for that, you want to learn all of the techniques that you value, whether it be distortion or high notes or falsetto or whatever. And then when you come to sing, those techniques just sort of flow out of you to tell the story. And I'm sure that this is what that is, because it's things like the legs going. There's just no bloody way he's like, okay, make sure in verse 2 I start with the shaky knees. This section was so captivating, and the techniques were used to portray his emotion so transparently that I just need to hear it again to make more sense out of what was even happening there.
All that I am, all I'll be.
This here. B, bang on the note, and then he got a little bit flat, and then he launched into it, kind of exploded out of it. So that was a perfect example of the technique I was explaining earlier in one phrase. Bend the pitch a little bit, put us on edge, and then throw us out of it. That falsetto, we haven't really had that much, and so in this context it sounds like a whimper. It's so cool how the same vocal technique can be used to portray so many emotions. I'm having such a lovely day, ooh. But here it's a whimper. Jubilance, sorrow, same notes, same technique. Intention is really everything. And somebody, that I can't really do it, but the way that he
Somebody else's sky, but why?
Has this kind of hiss on set for his notes is interestingly something that we heard another singer who uses a lot of distortion do. Remember with Chakra Khan, he does these onsets all the time.
'Cause I don't think that I understand.
And he uses a lot of grit that sounds extremely natural in his voice. So there must be some kind of correlation between that. Something to do with the design of their anatomy that means this onset comes naturally and then the grit to follow, because this onset would insinuate that there's space between the vocal folds. So there's like a big gap in there, which is cool, I guess, for more flapping. I don't know exactly, but there's definitely something there, and that is super interesting, and I'm going to investigate that more. There's a lot of tissue flapping there. It's really unusual to hear this type of distortion with a super clear fundamental. Because usually you would expect that fundamental pitch to disappear and the whole thing to turn into like a why, you know, like a fry, but it's not a fry at all because we have underneath. So there's other tissue involved. It could be the corniculate cartilages, something high up, because it's extremely like bubbly sounding, and the false folds usually have more of a growl effect, but that's bloody fascinating. Really addictive to listen to. There's a big drop there. Can it be? Or can it be? He didn't need to drop his larynx like that. He could have just done, can it be? Can it be? But he deliberately pushed it down for some reason, lowering the larynx to create that more dark formant. Maybe he's sinking into that line a little bit more. Why can't it be, after he's already said it one way?
He's gonna say it another way.
Or can it be?
I feel like my skin is screaming. That was a full body experience. Bloody hell. There was so much in that. I reckon if you looked up the definition of raw, you would see uncooked and then Pearl Jam, Black MTV Unplugged. That word does get thrown around and used in a really vague way to describe something that hasn't got auto-tune on it, basically. But raw is really, I think, one of the best ways to describe it for me, because unfiltered in an emotional sense. And it's wonderful that someone with the capacity to feel these emotions as intensely as he does also has so many vocal skills to portray them. It is the ultimate perfect storm vocalist edition. The lyrics are sublime because there aren't many of them, and in the few lines that there are, he's able to give us something so graphic to visualize and something so poignant to internalize. And for some bizarre reason, it took me 25 years to find it. I don't know how this keeps happening, all this incredible music that was actually sort of mainstream that I've just completely missed. But that's exciting. It's exciting that I get to share it with you anyway. It is that time again to love you and leave you. Until next time, I will see you very soon. But until then, let's read out today's oracle card. The Empathetic Eel. You've recognised what you needed to feel healthy in mind and body. Don't let these good habits slip or feel guilty for putting yourself first. In fact, maybe share your wisdom and raise others up too. Thank you so much for watching this video today. I hope you've enjoyed it as much as I've enjoyed making it. If there are any singers, beatboxers, artists, any vocal users or music of any kind you would like to see me analyse, please do let me know down below in the comments, as it is always my pleasure. If you managed to make it to the premiere, then welcome and hello, big premiere hug for you. If you're here at any other time, then big hug for you anyway. I love you loads and I hope you have a wonderful day. See you soon. Mwah. Bye. Cracky, it's hot in here. It blew my socks off. You thought I was lying! There was this one time in year 2, which is like 2nd grade, I don't know, I was 6. I just moved to a new school, and at playtime one day I found a dead bee in the playground, and I decided to pick some flowers and some grass and kind of give it a funeral, make a little arrangement for it, make a little bed for it, and then cover it with a leaf, sort of thing. I was in my zone, giving this bee the send-off it deserved, and then just a bunch of kids came over and laughed and said that was really weird. And that's just one of those, you know. Obviously slightly less grave.